Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome a sports fan who's got no problems telling you about shit that pisses him off or the dumbass shit that he did. He's not going to waste a lot of your time. He's going to get in and get out. He'll hit it and quit it. Let's put your hands together several thousand times in a row. It's Chronicles of a Dumbass, the Sean Mackey Show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Season 1. Episode 8 already. Still not sure how many episodes I'm going to do during the season. Currently going to use the video versions for YouTube like I've been doing. And hopefully by the time a second season rolls around, I will have figured out the whole video editing thing. Figured out how to transfer the videos to the computer. Unfortunately, the way the iPhone, stupid, makes the videos, a lot of them don't open up and transfer. So now I've got a program that's supposedly going to take the iPhone video format and put it into the MP4 format so that there can be some cool editing happening if I decide to strictly go with the videos once I realize or learn that they can be put up on Spotify. So we got a lot of time today with the video version because I'm not restricted for that. It's the audio version that I have some restrictions. So let's start out with Blackburn softball. They were supposed to play Friday and Saturday against Maranatha Baptist out of Waterton, Wisconsin. Saturday's games were rained out. Too bad. Friday, 2-0. They beat Maranatha. Run ruled them both games, 8-0 in the first game. And this was a remarkable game, folks. We had and witnessed a perfect game. Shelby Koenig, 15 batters faced, 15 strikeouts, no runs, no hits, no errors, no nothing. It was a great game, a great pitched game by Shelby. Kudos go out to her. Some highlights from that game. We had a couple of doubles. Bree Allen, Sierra Heiser. RBIs by Bree Allen, Kennedy Fry, Zoe Mitchell, Caroline Gibson, Sierra Heiser, and Juliana Tabian, our Juju. She knocked in the 8th run to walk it off in the 5th inning. That was it. Game over. End of story. That put Blackburn in the win column Friday. They continued in the second game Friday evening. That was a 13-0 rout of Maranatha Baptist. We had Maylee Schoen with a double. Mackenzie Smith doubled. Shelby Koenig doubled. RBIs, Sierra Heiser, Zoe Mitchell, Maylee Schoen, Mackenzie Smith, Emma Stiebel, all with RBIs. And the other three mentioned had multiple RBIs for that game. So that put them again in the win column. That puts Blackburn softball at 5-9 so far on the season. I'm going to throw those over there because we're done with them. And that will now take us to Blackburn baseball. Unfortunately, currently, overall, so far, it looks like Blackburn is 2-13. They played Principia College, I believe, on the 22nd. The first game was a 10-1 win. Blackburn had 10 runs on 14 hits and 2 errors. Some batting highlights for that game came from a couple of doubles, Josh Moreno and Omar Claudio. Triple by Andrew Lozano. RBIs by Harley Carney, Andrew Lozano, CJ Bruno, Omar Claudio, Diego Perez, and Luke Ellinger. Couple stolen bases, Andrew Lozano and CJ Bruno. All right, so that was game 1 against Principia. Looks like Bailey Kasprowitz might have picked up the win on that game. Yep. And let's see. 105 pitches through 70 strikes. Good job there by Bailey. in Game 1 against Principia on March 22nd. All right. Game 2 against Principia was a 15-10 win for Blackburn. They had 15 runs on 14 hits and 2 RBIs. Andrew Lozano and Dominic Medrano with home runs, RBIs by RJ Arredondo, Andrew Lozano, Omar Claudio, Dominic Medrano, Brett Lander, and Royce Kanji. Sac fly by Omar and Royce as well. Stolen bases by Harley Carney and Andrew Lozano. And Mason Wyant, our guy Mason, picked up the win. 99 pitches, 58 strikes. Good day by Mason. All right. So that's the recap of Blackburn Athletics for this week. We are going to move into a heated discussion, or a heated topic for me today, and that is Cubs baseball. All right. Started out 0-2 in Japan. They started the United States regular season against Arizona. So far, they have played 3 out of 4 games. The first game of that series, the Cubs picked up a nice, handy-dandy little 8-1 win. We had some good bats in that game. We got to see Miguel Amaya continue to be hot, and good all-around game for that first game against Arizona. Cubs picked up their first win of the season. 8 runs on 14 hits. Oh, no, that's game 2. Son of a bitch. That's all right. Let's backtrack. Game 1 against Arizona was a 10-6 victory by the Cubs. Cubs picked up 10 runs on 12 hits with 0 errors. Ian Happ going 2 for 5. Kyle Tucker 1 for 5. Seiya 1 for 5. Bush 2 for 4. Let's see. Dansby put up a big old goose egg in that game. Pete Crow got a hit. Matt Shaw picked up a hit. Miguel Amaya with 2 hits, a double. A couple of doubles, I believe. Yep, 2 doubles. Ian Happ with a double. Happ homered in that game. Happ had 3 RBIs. Tucker had picked up his second. Amaya had 5 RBIs. Nico picked up 1. All right, so that was a good first game. We thought maybe we would see some better games out of the Cubs this week. Then they get into game 2, and oh my God, this is where I have problems. Jameson Tyone pitched that first game, and it was just a terrible, terrible outing. I don't know. At one point after Eugenio Suarez had hit, Tyone for a home run early, why in the 4th inning do you leave Tyone in for Suarez to hit another home run? All right, Cubs lose that game 8-1. They had 1 run on 3 lousy hits. So it's another example. It seems like this Cub team last year, the year before, honestly, the last couple of years, doesn't even matter who is in the lineup. They'll be hot one day, and they'll go out and score a shit ton of runs, put up a whole bunch of hits, and then boom, very next day, done. I mean, it just boggles my mind that this Cubs team over the last couple of years cannot seem to put together a streak where they are going to hit well and score runs. Whether you win or lose the ball game, hitting consistently is a key at any level to win any kind of baseball game. And to go out in game 1, a 10-6 victory where you had 12 hits by multiple guys. Let's see, looking back at the stats, my handy-dandy little stat sheet here, because, us old guys, we can't keep everything in the noggin. But we had, everybody in the lineup except Dansby Swanson in that 10-6 victory produced. So that's 8 out of 9 guys. You can't ask for more. You know what I mean? And then you get to the 8-1 loss against Arizona. And let's see. 1, 2, 3 guys contribute with 1 hit each. Everybody else, bit, done, nothing. Like, I'm taking the day off. 4th game of the season, and they're, like, taking the game off. Really, really pisses me off. Last night, I was kind of happy. I saw the Cubs had the lead. And then I find out later that they did everything in their power to blow that game. All right? You pick up Ryan Presley. Here's a guy that was demoted as a closer for losing some velocity. And you go out and get this guy, and he's going to be your closer. That's been a big issue for the Cubs in the last couple of years. I know they were experimenting with Adbert Alzolay, and, for 1 year, he put up some numbers, thought maybe we had our guy, then he got hurt, couldn't come back from it. I don't even think he's with the ball club anymore. But you have this guy Presley, and, a closer, I mean, that's like, to me, that's a starter. You can have a bunch of pitchers who maybe lose some velocity. If you know how to use them right, you can filter them in the middle innings, middle relief, get out of a jam kind of guy, depending on what they throw. But, when starters lose it or closers lose it, it seems to be lost forever, at least from what I've witnessed in many years of watching Cubs baseball. So everybody wants to say, Ryan Presley, his record will speak for itself. He's picked up over 100 saves in his career. And I guess the Cubs, once again, are trying to maybe pick up lightning in a bottle. I don't necessarily know if it's going to work, so we will have to wait and see what the deal is with that. But I'll tell you what, that game last night, I think Dansby Swanson goes out and literally saves the Cubs' ass. Presley comes in the ninth, bottom of the ninth inning, leading 4-1. And guess what he did? He gave up a home run to Suarez. Makes it 4-3, and at this point, 2 outs, runners on first and second. Corbin Carroll comes up to the plate, and this guy is, fast. I mean, he's probably, if Pete Crow's the fastest in MLB or one of the fastest, Carroll's right up there. And he hits this little short chopper to short, and Swanson's coming in and gloves the ball, realizes he's not getting Carroll. Bases are possibly going to be loaded here, so he does the old pump fake like he's going to try to throw Carroll. The coach for Arizona sends the guy round in third, and all of a sudden Dansby just gloves the ball and boom, takes off for the guy at third. Screek! Brakes go on. Dude at third's dancing a little bit, trying to get back to the bag. Dansby with the Superman dive to make the tag. Out number 3, Cubs win the game. But I'll tell you what, at that point with Ryan Presley, if that's the only game he struggles in as a closer, it's great. Happy to have him. If this is what it's going to be for the rest of the season, this to me is going to be another long season. And then this is what's going to lead me this week to my my segment here that we've all come to know and love here at Chronicles of a Dumbass. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another edition of Shit That Pisses Me Off. Yeah, and this is the shit that pisses me off. And I'm going to go right to the top, and it's Tom Ricketts. All right? Now, we all got Ricketts to thank. He comes in, he buys the team, I think, in 2009. He changes some things. They bring in Theo Epstein. Here's a guy who turned Boston around, got them their first championship in how many years it was for them. So we bring in Theo Epstein. And Tom Ricketts opens the wallet. He opens the checkbook. It's like, here, buddy, you got free reign to do what you need to do so that we can win that World Series. And they get it. I think they get it a little earlier than what they were projecting to. It was supposed to maybe be around 2017 or something like that, but Epstein got it done. So 2016, a lot of us Cubs fans who had never witnessed, I mean, we got close in 84. maybe I think it was 2003 we got, 2003. That's the year that I vowed not to follow the Cubs for a while, and I didn't. I was so pissed off after that foul ball, the Steve Bartman incident with Alou out there. Cubs just fell apart. They let Florida come in and just manhandle them, and they end up losing that game, and Florida, I believe, goes on to win the World Series that year. But this is what pisses me off about this team. Cubs ownership. How many years did we struggle through the Tribune Company not like giving a damn? You know, and I'm telling you what, we all know that there are Cub fans all across the nation. All right. And so the things that have happened since 2016 have just shown me that Ricketts, I think, yes, he's a self-proclaimed Cubs fan. He loves the team. And I don't think in my lifetime I'll see any other owner. But this guy needs to get his shit together because he's closing the wallet. He's closing the checkbook. I'm pretty sure the reason Theo Epstein left with a year left on his contract was he said, if you're going to handcuff me, basically, then I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And they bring in his protege, Hoyer. And Hoyer, I think, is probably, I don't think this guy ends up as a GM anywhere if the Cubs don't extend him. Or a president of baseball operations or whatever the hell it is that his title is. Because the moves he's made in the last few years have just boggled the mind. And this year is no exception. And we'll get to that in a minute. But the first thing I want to say here is, you know, Ricketts comes in and he threatens to put up the screen so the rooftop owners couldn't capitalize. And, I think it's a cool concept because you can go probably pay more for a ticket to go to the rooftop across the street. And, yeah, those owners probably should have been sharing some of the revenue with the Cubs because, you know, there's that belief that you're stealing product. So Ricketts comes in and he buys up 10 of the 13 rooftop businesses. So he gets that. So now he's got the income from that. I'm pretty sure he's bought up a bunch of other little businesses all around the outside of Wrigley Field to the tune of, at one point I read an article a couple of years ago where Ricketts was making about $5 billion annually from the ventures outside, the improvements he's done. I think they're putting up, and if they haven't already, the big hotel across the street. It's been years since I've been up in Wrigley, living in central Illinois now. It's hard to get up there. But he's got that going for him. And now it's evident to me that he's making more money outside Wrigley, and he doesn't give a shit about what's going on inside of Wrigley. The ownership that he picked up when he got the Cubs, it came with, I think, like a 25% share in the Comcast Sports Net. Comcast, it was, you know, they got the Cubs, they got Wrigley Field, and he got a 25% ownership with Comcast Sports Net Chicago. When's the last time you watched a game for the Chicago Cubs on that channel? I haven't. It's been so long. Last couple of years, it's all been Marquee Channel, which is what is another thing, is where this guy goes for a power money grab. Why are there Cub fans all across the nation? Because the Cubs were on WGN, which in a lot of states when we were growing up in the 70s and 80s was a free cable. Well, it wasn't, you know, it was a cable channel. You had to pay for cable. We didn't get cable in Chicago. I can't think to the late 70s, early 80s. And if it was there any earlier, my dad just wasn't going to pay for it. So we didn't have it. But we had WGN. It was based in Chicago. We could come home after school and catch the last 3 or 4, 5 innings of the Cubs games when they were playing during the day. That's why there's Cubs fans all over the country, because kids could come home from school and watch the Cubs for free. And then Tom Ricketts comes in. I don't even recall any of the games Cubs, maybe the first 2-3 years he had the team, but then they were on like 5 different channels. You had to search everywhere to find them, you know, the WE channel or whatever, all those Chicago, you know, and WGN. And it was like, great, you still have free baseball. And then he comes in, and like a lot of the teams, he develops his Marquee Sports Network, and now you got to pay $19.99 for it a month. Or you have to have, like, we use YouTube TV. It's not offered on YouTube TV, so we don't get it. And, you know, I just think that's really one good way to alienate the fans. And it really pisses me off, you know. Since acquiring the Cubs in 2009, the family placed a priority on renovating Wrigley Field. In 2014, they spent nearly $1 billion, which is great. It's an old-ass ball club. You kind of need to do that, make it safe for the fans. make it a little bit better, a little bit more accessible. Um, but, you know, everything else is, I just think this guy, he brought us the championship. I think he's going to rest on those laurels. And I don't think he's going to open the checkbook anymore for us. And I'm afraid that within my lifetime, we're not going to see another victory. And that kind of takes me to Jed Hoyer. I mean, what is this freaking guy doing? Is all of what he's doing because Ricketts isn't opening up the checkbook? And it could very well be. But Cody Bellinger opts into you this year. Shocked the shit out of fans. Shocked the shit out of Hoyer, I'm sure. And nobody really expected it. The guy didn't have a great year last year. And I'm pretty sure that's why he did it. But you go out and you trade this guy to the New York Yankees for Cody Poteet. And I said this in one of my first podcasts. And I knew then that this was nothing more than a salary dump. Cody opts in for $30 million something a year, and you trade him. You trade him for a guy nobody's probably ever even heard of, and then sure as shit, all of the news media outlets at the end of the spring training when the Cubs announced their final roster, and they DFA'd Cody Poteet, and then like the next day they trade him to Baltimore for cash options, and then everybody comes out of the woodwork and says, it was a salary dump all along. Well, no shit. You know, I could have told you. In fact, I did tell you that. If you listen to my podcast in one of the first few episodes, I know for a fact that I mentioned that. And it's pissed me off because what's Cody Bellinger doing now? Right now, first couple of games of the season, he's hitting .571 for the Yankees. And you go and trade for Kyle Tucker, and you give up one of the best prospects in baseball, Cam Smith, who makes the Houston Astros roster out of spring training. I think at this point, Cam Smith is probably hitting as well as Kyle Tucker is. Kyle Tucker did bump his average up to 250 yesterday, I believe. But this is a superstar that you were able to sign for 1 year for $17 million. And what did they do with that $13 million that they saved from dumping Cody Bellinger? Nothing. They didn't do shit. You know? And let me just check this out. I'm going to look up Houston right now, and I'm going to look and see after these couple of games of the season what Cam Smith is doing. And this was a guy you could have, if you were going to dump Cody Bellinger, you could have left well enough alone without picking up Tucker. And this kid, Cam Smith, at this point, you're basically saying, fuck it, because we didn't really go out and get anybody. Presley's your closer. I don't think that guy's going to... If that guy picks up 25 saves this year, you know, I'm not going to make one of these stupid bets where I'm going to do something silly or stupid. I do enough of that shit every day, hence the name of the show. So I'm not even going to go there. But I just don't think Presley's going to pick up 25. I don't think he's going to be your closer by the middle of the season, you know. Let's take a look at what what Cam Smith is doing right now for Houston. Cam Smith. Boom. Pop him up there. Rookie. Makes the club one of the best prospects in baseball right now. Okay. He's hitting 200. He's 1 for 5. But this kid's young. This is a kid you could have had in your organization for 10 years. And I don't think Kyle Tucker's going to sign back. The only way Kyle Tucker signs back with the Cubs after this season, if he has a terrible, shitty, horrible season and nobody else wants to give him a contract. All right? So Cam Smith is hitting 200 for the Cubs, or for the Astros, and let's see where Kyle Tucker sits. And right now he is, okay, let's see. All right, he's hitting 250. He's 5 for 20 on the season. So he's a little bit more at the plate, more plate appearances than Cam Smith has had, and 50 different points on the batting average. I don't know. Maybe Kyle Tucker's a leader. Maybe he's going to spark that offense to do something good throughout the year. I just don't like it. I don't buy it. I knew all along Cody Bellinger was a salary dump. And in my personal opinion, I think Tom Ricketts, I don't know. I think he needs to be investigated by the Chicago Police, the Cook County Sheriff's Office, and the Illinois State Police for, I don't know if it'd be, well, maybe it would be robbery because the fans are still filling Wrigley Field. Prices are going up. They're still spending all the money. And Ricketts is just putting it in his pocket. And he claims, oh, we just break even every year. Well, you know what? I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. I think you maybe are supposed to spend some money and maybe take some losses, which I don't even know how Major League Ball clubs do it. Man, I could see Oakland. Nobody was coming to their games. Chicago White Sox for a while. Nobody's coming to their games. So, yeah, maybe those guys are taking losses, and they're bad losses. But you know what? You're a billionaire. You're going to write them off anyway, and so that's going to help you break even. You're probably not going to pay your taxes, but you're taking money from the fans, merchandise, tickets, beer, hot dogs, soda, everything that you can imagine. And I think that they need to be investigated by the damn police. All right? So that's enough of my rant for today. But speaking of the police, that's going to bring me to this week's episode of... Once again, it's time for Dumbass Shit I Did. Hey, this guy's a dumbass. I know. Have you ever been chased by the police? I've been harassed a few times by the police, all right? Growing up in Chicago. I mean, grew up in the... started high school in the early 80s. So, born in 68, you could say I grew up throughout the 70s and the 80s. Graduated high school in 86. And I remember, and I've talked to you about the Rocks, that glorious place that we built to be the baseball haven that it was for us, a getaway, a place we could go and forget about our cares for a while after school and just play baseball. We played other sports there, and we did a bunch of other things there too. And this is a story that is gonna hopefully make you laugh. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm willing to let you laugh at my heartache and at my pain. But me and a bunch of friends decided to go hang out at the Rocks, and it was nighttime. It was dark. It was secluded. It was a place that you didn't think you were gonna get in trouble or get harassed by anybody. And the funny thing is with this story, so we were you can only imagine what we were doing. We were there, and we were doing a little wacky tobacky, and we were having a good old time. And all of a sudden, I'm standing with two of my buddies, and we're standing there, we're hitting a little, and I look over to my right, and I just see square headlights coming down from Kilbourne, like turn in to the little alley that led to where our batter's box was, where we were at the Rocks. And I'm just like, oh shit, it's the cops. Fuck. And they're coming closer, and they're getting in there, and we're just like, oh, we're fucking panicking. And so we just take off running. And so when you're at the Rocks, that alley, it led past the factory, and you could get to the train tracks. You could cut across the tracks, headed north, and then you could come back down the next street, which I think was Homer. And if the cops chase you up that way and you were fast enough, you could get around, or you could just jump over the tracks and then get out to Cicero Avenue. Little escape routes we had. So we're trying to escape. I mean, we got some joints. We're young, we're underage, and we're just trying to escape. So I'm running, I'm taking off, and I'm looking behind me to see if the cops are getting any closer. And I'm looking behind me, and then all of a sudden, I just heard SWAT. And my feet go out from under me forward. I'm parallel to the ground. I fly like Superman would fly if he could fly on his back. Superman flies like this, and I'm like this. And I hit the ground. Boom! Oh, shit, there goes the mic. I hit the ground, and I skid across the dirt, and my face is fucking on fire. And then all of a sudden, I just feel this warm liquid coming down my face. And I know I'm bleeding. And I'm ripping off my high school locker partner. He let me use his sweat shirt. And this is back in the 80s, when we used to buy the matching zip-up sweatshirts with the pants, and we were all cool wearing those. And I got my locker partner. I know, Joe, I don't know if you listen to this, Joe Szymanski. You don't know the lengths I went to protect that gray and red sweatshirt that I thought was so fine from getting loaded with my blood. I rip this damn thing off and I pull it off and I'm like, oh, fuck, this is my locker partner. I can't bleed all over this. My buddy Dennis, he's wearing one of these half gray t-shirts. He rips that off over his head, gives it to me to put to my face. I can barely touch my nose. I've broken my nose while I think I'm being chased by the police because I ran smack dab into one of those thick metal wires that comes out of the top of the utility pole, and then it stretches across an angle and anchors into the ground to keep those things from falling. And it wasn't the cops. It was just a guy and a girl who were coming back there to the rocks to, do a little hanky-panky in their back seat. So that was a pretty dumbass move by me. But that's going to let me introduce to you a story next week about that episode at the Rocks eventually led to me being kicked off my high school baseball team for what one of our coaches, who used to coach baseball, he didn't anymore at the time I was on it, and he accused me of treason. So that episode at the Rocks, me running into the telephone pole, splattering, cracking the nose, leads to me being kicked off my high school baseball team for treason. And again, that's part of it, but the whole story also again happened at the Rocks. So I know that the Rocks is a place that I want to talk about a lot because again, it was just a great place for us growing up. So I hope my tragic pain has brought a smile to your face after my rant about the Chicago Cubs. And I just tell you, the 80s were a different time, man. Gen X, we could get through a lot of things because we survived a lot of things, a lot of dumbass shit. So, that's all the time I got today, folks. Thanks for being with me. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Chronicles of a Dumbass. I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. Maybe it brought a smile to your face, made you laugh. Maybe it even made you think. If you liked what you heard, tell all your friends. If you didn't, just keep your mouth shut.